marami nagka-interest sa larong ito. I really hope na matuloy ito.
Huwag kang mag-alala, Torre, kasi matagal ko na talaga gusto makabugbog ng unggoy.
Mga kabayan, sa kabila ng masamang panahon at karamihan sa ating mga kababayan ang naghihikahos dala ng epekto ng patuloy na pag-ulan at sunod-sunod na bagyo, tila iba naman ang pinagkakaabalahan ng ilan sa ating mga matataas na opisyal ng gobyerno. Partikular nga dito si PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre III at Davao City Acting Mayor Baste Duterte. Kaugnay pa rin ito sa alitan ng dalawang opisyal kung saan ay nauwi nga sa paghahamon ng suntukan. Kahapon ay naglabas ng matinding pahayag si Mayor Baste laban kay General Torre. Naglatag din ng kondisyon si Baste para kay Torre kung talagang seryoso ang general na matuloy ang boxing nilang dalawa.
Kung serious ka talaga, ha? These are my conditions. Pakiusapan mo yung amo mo na presidente and let it come out of his mouth that all elected officials should undergo a hair follicle drug test. Papalagan ko yung charity mo na yan.
Kahapon hanggang ngayon ay tila seryoso si General Torre sa hamon ni Mayor Baste kung saan ay patuloy siyang nag-iinsayo para paghandaan ang laban nila ni Baste Duterte ngayong darating na linggo.
Hindi naman sa patol, ano? There was a challenge made and I just saw an opportunity to raise funds at makatulong sa ating mga kababayan. So I just grab it. Mahina na nga ako eh. Pero marami nagka-interest sa larong ito. Kaya just to give them an entertainment, medyo para we can have a sort of credibility in showing up. Nag-refresh tayo ng konti sa ating mga dating ginagawa. Matanda na tayo at sabi nga ng trainer ko, mahina na ang hangin eh. Kaya wala nang diin ng mga suntok. Kaya I really hope na matuloy ito.
Kung matatandaan, ang Araneta Coliseum ang unang venue na binanggit ni Torre. Pero kahapon ay kinumpirma nito na nakaset na ang Rizal Memorial Coliseum para sa event na pagdarausan ng boxing nilang dalawa.
Kung ready sila sa venue, I can show up. Pero nakaset na actually ang Rizal Memorial Coliseum. A ring is already being set up there para sa Sunday.
Dahil dito tila kaliwat kanan ang inabot na batikos ng dalawang opisyal ng gobyerno mula sa ating mga kababayan. Komento ng netizen, sa halip na magpasikat sila sa media, mas mainam na guguri na lang nila ang kanilang oras para pagsilbihan ang mga kababayan nating apektado ng matinding sama ng panahon at patuloy na pag-ulan sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa. At sa iba pang mga balita, kumpiyansa ang abogado ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte na si Atty Kaufman Kaufman na posible pang makauwi ang dating Pangulo sa Pilipinas. Ayon kay Kaufman, gusto niya makausap si Pangulong Ferdinand BongBong Marcos Jr. kung may pagkakataon. Ito ay parte yakin sa kanya na walang ibang mangyayari kung papayagan itong makauwi si Duterte sa Davao City. Nakakulong ngayon sa dahig Netherlands ang dating Pangulo dahil sa kinakaharap niyang kaso na Crimes Against Humanity sa ICC kaugnay sa war on drugs. Kahapon, naglabas ng pinakabagong update mula sa dahig Netherlands matapos pinabura ng International Criminal Court o ICC Free Trial Chamber 1 ang hiling ng kampo ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte na ipagpaliban muna ang pagdedesisyon sa petisyon nila na pansamantalang palayain si dating Pangulong Duterte.
Attorney, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that the Philippines still has a viable path to bring former President Duterte back home? What factors support that level of confidence?
Between 1 to 10?
Yes.
I would say 100 if President Marcos would invite me to Manila. I'd sit down with him and I'd explain to him that nothing will happen if he allows my clan to go back to Davao. He's an old man. Let him live out his life in peace, quietly, and don't interfere with him.
Ano ang masasabi mo dito, kabayan? Pabor ba kayo sa paglalaban ng dalawang opisyal ng ating gobyerno? At kung sakaling matuloy ang boxing ni Torre at Baste, sino sa tingin nyo ang magwawagi at uuwi ng talunan? Sama-sama nating panuorin ang buong video at pakicomment nyo po ang inyong mga reaksyon at sariling opinyon. Pero bago yan, sa mga hindi pa po nakasubscribe sa ating channel na Kabayan News PH, pakipindot po ang subscribe button at pakiclick na rin ang notification bell para lagi kayong updated sa mga bagong upload natin na legit at napapanahong balita. Maraming pong salamat.
hindi naman sa patol, ano. There was a challenge made and I just saw an opportunity to raise funds at makatulong sa ating mga kababayan. So I just grab it.
Umabot sa 6 rounds ang unang araw ng ensayo ni Philippine National Police Chief, Police General Nicolas Torre III sa boxing gym sa Campo Crame para sa posibleng charity boxing match nila ni Davao City Acting Mayor Sebastian Duterte. Ayon sa General, bagamat boxing ang isa sa sports niya noong nasa akademya pa siya, ay matagal na siyang walang practice kaya medyo hiningal daw siya. Pero itutuloy niya aniya ito bilang tulong na rin sa mga naapektuhan ng bagyo.
Mahina na nga ako eh. Pero marami nagka-interest sa larong ito. Kaya just to give them an entertainment, medyo para we can have a sort of credibility in showing up. Nag-refresh tayo ng konti sa ating mga dating ginagawa. Matanda na tayo at sabi nga ng trainer ko, mahina na nga ang hangin eh. Kaya wala nang diin ng mga suntok. Kaya I really hope na matuloy ito.
May lakas pa naman. Tapos yung ano niya, siyempre yung speed kasi sir, mawawasan gawa yung resistance kasi kulang. Okay. First time na sir, kapabalik lang yun ng training. 6 months na kami sir, mahigit na mag-7 months na kami hindi na training.
Sa tweet ni Senator Panfilo Lacson, sinabi nito na nag-aalok din ng venue ang isang hotel para sa Torre Duterte boxing match. Subalit, kinumpirma ni Chief PNP na nakuha na nila ang Rizal Memorial Coliseum sa Maynila.
Kung ready sila sa venue, I can show up. Pero nakaset na actually ang Rizal Memorial Coliseum. A ring is already being set up there para sa Sunday.
Tiniyak ni Chief PNP na pupunta siya sa Rizal Memorial Coliseum sa linggo. Dumating man o hindi, si Acting Mayor Baste Duterte para mamigay ng ayuda sa mga nasalanta ng bagyo.
Yeah, actually meron kasi kaya nga this coming Sunday marami ng mga tao na darating sa Rizal Memorial Coliseum and at 9 o'clock, whether he shows up or not, we will just continue with the distribution of aid sa ating mga kababayan.
Nagpapasalamat din si General Torre sa mga Pilipino na nagpapakita ng interes sa posibleng boxing match nila ni Baste.
Sa ating mga kababayan, ako nagpapasalamat lamang sa kanilang mga interest, sa interest na mga ibinigay dito sa event na ito. At maraming salamat sa mga nagsuporta, sa mga nag-pledge ng ayuda sa ating mga kababayan. Ang pinaka-importante rito, ating mga kababayan na magiging beneficiaryo nitong event na ito.
So, Duterte versus Torre. Di ba may ganun sa boxing mga kapatid? O, yung background nila, dun sa kaliwa. Si Duterte, politician. Si Torre, policeman.
Yeah.
Ang posisyon.
Yeah.
Si Duterte, acting mayor of Davao City. Ang si Torre naman, chief of PNP. At ito ang malaking agwat. Yung age po o yung edad po ni Duterte, 37 years old. O wala pang 40. Si Torre, 55 years old pero nakita kong nag-practice.
Pakita natin. Meron ba kayong
Oo.
video? Baka kasi yung mga hindi nag-online kanina, no? Dahil mga walang signal ay hindi nakikita ang
Ayan.
pag-iensayo. Akala ko kanina sa StoryCon, hindi StoryCon na program, yung StoryCon ng mga reporters kanina at saka producers. Kala ko joke na may hinihintay pong pag-iensayo. Pag-iensayo, kala ko hindi totoo, pero totoo.
Ano to? Sa Camp Crame to, Si General Torre, Nicolas Torre
So sa
III.
PNPA pala ay parang membro ng boxing club.
Membro talaga siya.
General Nick Torre. At alam din natin, hindi ko alam hindi, sure kami na hindi bago yung suntok-suntok ni pag-iensayo naman ni Baste Duterte, pero kumakalat na rin yan sa social media. Ayan. Walang date na na nakalakip diyan, kaya hindi natin alam kung bago o luma. Pero parang hindi dahil meron siyang bagong video yung kanyang late breaking kanina sa prime time lumabas yung pinakabago niyang statement mukhang Reddit kaya naman nilang dalawa.
Kaya
kung
nilang
tutuusin.
dalawa.
Pero so before natin sabihin yung mga pahayag po ni Baste Duterte ngayong gabi, ay sabihin lang natin na nagsimula po lahat ito doon din sa parang programa na yung kung saan nagsalita at naghamon nga si Acting
Baste.
Mayor Baste
Oo.
Duterte na gusto niya makipagsuntukan kay General Nick Torre.
Oo.
So, ay di syempre, yung mga reporter, tinanong si General Nick Torre about it, at sinabi nga ni Nick Torre na parang okay, pero since nga hindi maganda yung panahon at marami pong naghihirap tayong mga kababayan, gawin ng fundraising.
Ang gandang ideya yun. Oo, kung
So, gawin na daw sa Araneta. So, ganun na po yun. Parang hindi naman kondisyon yun, di ba? Parang sinabi lang niya, ayusin natin, lagay natin sa isang lugar.
Oo.
Hindi yung parang, sige, magkita tayo sa sa Pitong Gatang, tapos doon sa isang street doon magsuntukan tayo. Hindi, inayos.
Oo. I mean, gusto ko lang linawin yung sinabi ko magandang ideya. Hindi magandang ideya na magsuntukan tong dalawang to.
May maganda
para
idea
sa akin,
na merong fruitful about it.
Oo. In the midst of all the craziness, magandang ideya yung yung gawin na lang for a good cause.
Kaya nga yung nag-organisa doon sa sa Amoranton lang daw gawin. Maganda nga yun Kaya matuloy kay hindi daw, doon daw ilapag lahat ng mga ayuda.
Oo. Actually, ang sabi naman
Hindi lang ayuda. Basta goods na pwede niya ibigay.
Yes,
Yeah.
ang sabi ni General Torre, mga kapatid, ay pumunta man dun si acting Mayor, Davao Mayor Baste o hindi, ready na, meron na daw mga sponsor na nagbigay ng mga relief goods.
Relief goods,
Oo.
Si Senator Ping Lacson din nga, gusto niya sa hotel pa hindi niya gusto, kundi meron daw isang kakilala siya na nag-aalok noon.
Oh.
Inikwento niya sa Twitter or sa X kanina Tapos hindi sa pabor sana na pumatol basta ganun yung basa ko po na si General Nick Torre sana hindi na pumatol pero since nahamon daw at tinanggap yung hamon, mabuti na nga na basta for a good cause. So marami po nalungkot kasi yung ganung klaseng yung pagkasabi po parang imposible na mangyari yung Sunday.
Oo, ganun na nga. Which is actually in-expect naman din natin
In-expect
kahapon.
naman natin. So,
Hindi
pero
mangyayari.
naiintindihan ko yung collective disappointment ng mga nasa social media kanina when they learned about itong decision po ni Baste Duterte na payag siya kung at ito yung kondisyon niya kung, di ba?
Pero it's crazy kasi talagang hindi mangyayaring ganyan. Nababaliw na ba tayong lahat? Na tipo, yung dati, di ba? Sabi ko nga kanina, parang medieval times na pag may issue, mag-aaway sila, parang may joust, di ba? Ganon.
Yeah.
O kaya magpatayan sila sa harap ng hari.
Yeah.
Hindi na po ganon kasi.
Attorney Kaufman, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm well, thank you very much.
How is our former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte?
Well, as I've said, he's always in good spirits, but he's 80 years old and he's tired.
Attorney, in your motion to defer adjudication on the urgent request for interim release, you cited several delays and roadblocks. Could you elaborate on the nature of these obstacles? Or are they primarily procedural, diplomatic, or a combination of both?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not entitled to elaborate further. The matter is subject to confidentiality, as you will have seen from the filings on the ICC website. A number of parts of that filing are redacted, and they're redacted for a reason, to protect certain interests.
Attorney, what are the specific delays, whether it is procedural, evidentiary, or logistical, that you believe justify a reassessment of the current schedule for the confirmation of charges?
Well, I want to make it clear, at the present moment in time, the defence hasn't asked to postpone the confirmation of charges hearing. The nature of the delays and the obstacles are confidential, but they are the information that we haven't received, because that's basically the substance of our application, is, in our opinion, crucial for determining an issue which could potentially bar the holding of the confirmation of charges hearing.
Because, Attorney, there is a concern that the pre-trial chamber may interpret this delay as a tactic, stalling measure rather than a legitimate legal need. How do you respond to that?
Well, the pre-trial chamber know exactly what we've argued, and the pre-trial chamber will understand that we're not deliberately stalling. I don't deliberately stall anything. I do what I believe is the best thing to do for the interests of my client.
Okay. How about the Rule 121 of the ICC Rules of Procedures and Evidence, indicating it clearly that ensuring the efficiency of proceedings, in your view, has the Office of the Prosecutor failed to uphold any part of that obligation in this case?
Well, I'm the last person who would normally hand out awards to the prosecution, but to their credit, they have actually met their disclosure requirements as expected in this case. It's not been the case in other situations before the court, But ironically, in this case, they have met their disclosure obligations. What I can say that we've been disclosed a huge amount of information, and that will take time to assimilate and to learn.
Attorney, on another note, 3 Philippine senators have called on the Senate to urge the government to formally petition the International Criminal Court for the interim release of the former president, proposing a house arrest arrangement in The Hague. Legally speaking, how likely is the ICC to consider such an appeal under any circumstances, if any? Could this influence the court's discretion in granting interim release under the Rome Statute?
I think such an initiative on behalf of the senators is to be welcomed because it basically expresses the will of the people. However, the judges rule on evidence and rule on risk factors. So whatever these senators say, and I welcome it, I really do welcome it, and I thank them for it. Regardless, the judges have a set of rules which they use to decide whether or not an individual should be released or not.
Aside from the recent efforts filed before the ICC, such as the petitions for disqualification of certain judges and the request for interim release, what other legal avenues or procedural steps are you currently exploring to strengthen the case and secure the eventual return of the former president?
Well, there is a petition before the court for interim release. As you might know from a decision given by the judges yesterday, the decision on interim release will be postponed temporarily in order to allow us to present further crucial information to the pre-trial chamber.
On that note, Attorney, congratulations on the grant of your defense request to defer adjudication of the urgent motion for interim release. Ideally, is this motion expected to be adjudicated prior to the set confirmation of charges?
I hope so, but it's all tied up with the issue of information that we haven't received, delays, which are not attributable to the defense.
What is the legal significance or advantage of granting the deferment of the adjudication of the urgent motion for interim release?
And I said we want to have all the information necessary to promote a claim for interim release. We still require crucial information which is available and can be made available, but because of various obstacles and delays, we haven't received it. I'm not entitled to elaborate any further on the matter.
Thank you, Attorney. If the interim release is granted, will former President Duterte be placed under arrest only during the pre-trial phase, or will it continue throughout the entire trial if the charges are confirmed?
One would hope that it will continue throughout the whole trial if charges are confirmed, obviously.
Attorney, according to the report, the ICC has disclosed 1,253 items of evidence related to alleged crimes against humanity involving the former president. Have you had the opportunity to review these materials in full? If so, what is your legal assessment or overall impression of the strength and credibility of the body of evidence?
Well, you talk about 1,000 or so items that have been disclosed. However, each one of those items sometimes contain up to 100 or even 200 pages. So it's an immense amount of information. It's disclosed electronically. And we have means and methods using the court's information technology systems to analyze that evidence, to perform keyword searches, to focus in on aspects of the case that interest us for promoting the former president's defense. I'm not going to comment on the strengths and the weaknesses. I'm not allowed to. However, we are busy learning that evidence. We have a short amount of time to do it. We have a fair idea what we want to argue at confirmation, but once again, that's strategy, which I shan't be disclosing in a media interview.
Yeah. How do you respond to the Vice President Sara Duterte's claim that President Marcos Jr. is working with the ICC to remove her father from politics and to keep the ICC relevant?
I'm not going to comment on Vice President's comments to the media. However, what I can say is that no investigations can be carried out in the Philippines without the approval of the Philippines government. Otherwise, it would be a breach of sovereignty. It depends which way you look at it. And once again, the former president was brought here because supposedly the President Marcos, said that he was complying with Interpol. He wasn't complying with Interpol, he was complying with an ICC arrest warrant. So that is cooperation with a court to which the Philippines is no longer a member.
Are you saying that the Philippines, through these actions, are saying that we are not a sovereign country anymore?
No, I didn't say that. You can't carry out investigative procedures in another country without the approval of that country. Otherwise, it would be deemed a breach of sovereignty.
Is this action can also be characterized as not believing on our local judiciary?
Well, there's been all sorts of claims made by the current administration. They claim that there's no evidence left because it was all destroyed, and they claim falsely and without any foundation whatsoever that former President Duterte is possibly responsible for the destruction of that evidence. So that's why they argue that he can only be tried here. They've given a number of claims. All the time they're obfuscating the reason for him being transferred to The Hague. What I can say is that the correct place for him to be tried, given our jurisdictional arguments, is in the Philippines. He asked for a Filipino judge, he asked for a Filipino prosecutor, and he said, if I'm found guilty, I will sit in a Filipino prison.
Attorney, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that the Philippines still has a viable path to bring former President Duterte back home? What factors support that level of confidence?
Between 1 to 10?
Yes.
I would say 100 if President Marcos would invite me to Manila. I'd sit down with him and I'd explain to him that nothing will happen if he allows my clan to go back to Davao. He's an old man. Let him live out his life in peace, quietly, and don't interfere with him.
We understand, Attorney, that Senator Marcos also came here twice already because she wanted to have a meeting with the former president, and it was not approved by the ICC. What is the weight? Should it be allowed by the ICC, this particular meeting? Will it have an impact?
Once again, there are certain judicial decisions which have been taken which I'm not allowed to comment on.